Hi, I'm John Fugelsang, and you're watching Thank God for Jury Duty.
Great. So we're here in Annapolis, and I saw you've been doing some comedy shows outside of New York, including this one, and how have they been going?
A lot of fun. I've been developing a new show all over in New York and LA and everywhere in between about how to raise a toddler while your country is electing one. So I'm really proud to bring that level of depth to Annapolis.
I think, did you say you're talking about doing recording that comedy album too?
Yeah, we'll be recording an album later this year.
Where are you going to do that? Or
Somewhere in New York, trying to decide on the right venue.
So
I have a couple of wish lists in case I'd like to record it.
So how long have you been doing stand-up, and why did you start doing stand-up?
I started doing stand-up back in the 90s after I finished college, and I was an actor and I wanted to get on stage more, and I wanted to just play around more, and I saw George Carlin live, and he kind of changed my life. I was always a fan, but seeing him on stage was the first time a comedian ever made me feel less alone in an audience, and I wanted to try to do what he did, so I wound up doing a lot of TV work, and stand-up led to a whole bunch of different adventures.
So how would you describe your stand-up?
My stand-up is hopefully very smart and silly, intelligent and irreverent, political and satirical, but very goofy. I try to be, I try to say points of view I haven't heard before about things like politics or religion or love, relationships, having kids, and I try to make it physical and just ridiculous enough that I don't take myself too seriously. I mean, people pay to come see a show. They want to be entertained first and foremost. You're not doing a TED Talk, so it's nice to have information you give out, but it's got to be really fun. Billy Wilder said, if you're going to tell people the truth, make it funny or they'll kill you. So I just try to do a show where I'm saying the things I care about and sharing the things I find weird and odd and curious, and then hopefully finding ways to make it goofy and amusing enough that people pay their cover charge and don't want to beat me up in the parking lot. It's really all I go for.
That's good. So do you do anything like special to kind of get the audience involved, like in a positive way?
Oh no, I just berate them. I'm not positive at all. I'm horrible. I'm very mean to people. No, I think coming out there and just having fun. I don't do a lot of crowd work. Sometimes I will, but generally I just feel like, my job is to come out, and anyone who comes to one of my shows probably has some idea of what I'm going to do. So I don't worry about offending people too much, and I always make sure at the beginning of every show that I find out if there's any die-hard Trump fans in the room, and if there are, I make the whole crowd clap for them. I make them feel welcome. So that is something I definitely do, because I'm not into being mean to people. I go after people in power. I don't go after regular people.
Do you do anything different based on where you're performing or like your audience?
Yeah, you always play to the room you're in. If you're doing a military show, you'll do somewhat of a different show than if you're playing to a college crowd or a political fundraiser or a nightclub in Manhattan or a place down in Texas. I mean, I always kind of try to keep it authentic and real and come from where I'm coming from on any points. But you play to the room you're in. If you're in a room with a lot of Trump fans where it's very mixed politically, you play to that room and you acknowledge, that. If you're playing to a room that's more tilted one way, you acknowledge that.
What's something people would be surprised to know about you?
Well, let's see. I interviewed 2 Beatles on different continents in the same week one time. I've done stand-up for the troops, including in Haiti after the earthquake. I was once murdered on an episode of CSI. I'm in the movie Coyote Ugly for about 2 minutes. I have been picketed by the Westboro Baptist Church. I debated both David Duke and Jerry Falwell on the Bill Maher Show. I hosted America's Funniest Home Videos for about 5 minutes, and and I wanted to have the most psychotic career possible, and that's what I've been going for. And I once offered David Duke hot gay sex on TV if he would stop being a Nazi Klansman. He didn't take me up on it, so.
Do you collect anything or have any hobbies?
I used to have hobbies. Now I have a kid. Now my hobby is sleep.
Oh.
And seething envy of other people's lives.
You said at one time he liked your stand-up. Does he still like your stand-up?
Well, he just finished first grade, so I don't know if he likes it. I don't know if he gets any of it. He's been to a couple of shows. When he was a toddler, we were doing a big show down south, and he ran out on stage for the curtain call, and so he thinks it's all about him now. I do some material about how awful it is having a kid, and I was doing a fundraiser in New York, and like the babysitter didn't show up on time, and I had to bring him with me to the fundraiser, and I just figured, okay, I've got the iPad, I'll stick him in the back with headphones, he'll be quiet. And during my set, when I talked about having a kid, you suddenly hear this 5-year-old say from the back of the room, "Dad's talking about me," and every head swivels around. So he's already a heckler.
So you do a lot of religious and political stand-ups. So what was it like growing up with parents who were at one time a nun and a Franciscan brother?
The strangest thing about growing up with parents who are ex-clergy is how normal it seems when you're a kid. It seems like, yeah, so my mom was a nun, so what? You know. Then you realize your parents are older than everybody else because they were both married to Jesus and didn't have kids before the other parent. And then it got kind of weird. Always having the parents who were the most politically progressive, but also the most Christian at the same time. So it was very strange, but I came to really appreciate that, and it taught me to really view the world a different way. We were always too politically progressive for the Christians and too Christian for the cool kids.
Okay, I like your quote, "Some of the most godless people I know are believers, but some of the best Christians I know are atheists." Could you elaborate on that?
Well, some of the best Christians I know are atheists. You don't really have to subscribe to any theology to live a Christ-like life of love and acceptance and compassion. And some of the biggest hypocrites I've ever known call themselves Christian. I think we all have people in our families like that who think as long as I protest abortion, which Jesus never mentioned, I can ignore everything Jesus ever talked about. And we see this a lot in politics. And my agents don't like me talking about it, but I grew up around amazing Christian people. I was around a lot of nuns and a lot of Peace Corps people and, former clergy. And I knew amazing Christian people, but watching TV news, all I ever saw were people yelling at women outside of clinics or being mean to gay people, which is not from Jesus. So I'm not a great Christian, but I did learn from Jesus how much fun it is to call out hypocrites.
I remember you said somewhere, but I couldn't find it. Like, what are your thoughts on the afterlife? Like, do you think there's really a heaven or there's really a hell? Or
I don't really believe there's a hell, but there is decaffeinated coffee and the comments section of any news article and LaGuardia Airport. I believe in those things, not hell. When I was about 19, I kind of realized, wait a second, how could fire hurt a spirit? And boom, hell went away from it. It didn't make sense. But the ancient Jews of Jesus' time talked about something called Sheol, which was the absence of God. Like if you believe, like poltergeist, you die and you see the light, but you don't go into it. You just hang around and knock stuff over. Maybe that's what they were talking about. Hell, as we know it, is a concept that has evolved through a lot of great writers and paintings and scribes who took metaphors a little too seriously. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I'd like to believe that there's a heaven. And, I think anyone who believes that chooses to believe it, and it's a good thing to believe it.
Do you have any Heckler stories?
Oh, God, Heckler stories. These guys in the hallway right now. Heckler stories, yeah. I mean, I have 1,000 of them. Starting out, when I was starting out, open for bands, which is a terrible thing if you're a young comic, because they don't come to hear a comedian; they come to hear the band. Recently, I was just heckled. I was playing a gay piano bar in Manhattan off of Times Square, and I was heckled by a table of Trump supporters. And I was like, what, you, wait a second, no, I don't go to the rodeo and heckle you, what do you do? No, I thought you're supporting Donald Trump and Mike Pence, you're supporting transgender military bands and being mean to trans children who want to use the bathrooms they feel comfortable in, so you come to a gay bar, and they got mad and I tried to engage and instead they got up and walked out, so I feel like some kind of Queer St. Patrick, I drove the homophobes to the gay bar. That's some gentrification right there, man. When the homophobes are coming to a gay bar, what is this perverted neighborhood come to?
So like you said, you've done many things like acting, TV, stand-up, broadcasting. So what's your favorite, and is there something that you'd like to do that you haven't done yet?
I've been really lucky to be an actor and to be a comedian and to be a writer and to be a TV show host and a radio host, and I've done a lot of fun things. I'm into anything that's challenging, whether it's a character. I mean, acting is, I guess, what I do first and foremost. But I love performing, and I think TV is to help sell tickets to live events. So I'm in the midst of pitching a few different TV shows right now in New York and LA, and so we'll see what happens. But I want to do a lot of things. I have many great dreams. I want to do an all hardcore gangster rap version of Winnie the Pooh called Tigga Please. So watch for that. That's my dream job.
Like really?
No.
Sure. So going with this, how'd you get to where you are today, and are you happy the way things turned out?
That's a weird. I finished college and I was doing some like little theater in New York, and I started doing stand up and like doing like off Broadway theater led me to doing stand up, which led me to doing TV hosting, which led to living in Hollywood, which led to acting in films and TV shows, which led to more TV hosting, and led to political theater, which led to playing for the troops, which led to playing off Broadway and doing a big national political comedy tour, which led to me doing a daily show on SiriusXM. So I kind of feel like, one thing leads to another, and it's kind of neat to look at the links in the chain that are all of our lives and see what choice did I make when I was 20 that led to where I am now. That's what my parole officer tells me I should do. Retrace your steps and see where you went wrong.
Are you allowed to talk about what happened on page 6 yet, or not?
I can talk about it. What do you want to know?
Oh, I don't know, because on your radio show you're talking about how you weren't allowed to talk about it or something.
The short version is like, they called me up to come in for that show, and they actually, like the casting director I had known for years, and she called me at home. And I was like, that's not my kind of show, but I came in for her because she's a friend. And then at the first audition, they said they were going to have a live studio audience. So I said, oh, well, come to the callback. And then Mario Cantone was going to do the show, so I thought, oh, it's going to be a comedy show about pop culture, like Chelsea Lately or The Soup. And we had a test run. It was really fun. We got great ratings. They picked us up for a series. A year later, we came back, and Mario Cantone didn't do the series. But I figured I'll give it 6 months and see. And we launched a really good ratings. And then they said they were getting rid of the studio audience. And I was like, well, then you don't need a comedian. I'm not going to talk about the Kardashians without jokes. I can't talk about Justin Bieber's dating life seriously. So I'm not the droid you're looking for. So it was very mutual. And at the 6 month mark, they let me leave. And, they're all nice people, and the show was canceled after that, which is too bad because they were a very nice crew. But it was a good experience. I've learned not to stay in jobs when you know they're not the right job for you.
Well, didn't you say too, talking about that, that you got offered was it some kind of weather meteorologist or something, and you turned it down? I was offered to be the weather guy on a very famous network morning news show, and I said, do you want somebody who can spell meteorologist? And they offered me a lot of money, but I knew that I wouldn't be happy if I did it, and so I turned it down. I went back to LA, and I spent a year developing an off-Broadway show that ran off-Broadway and got me a Drama League nomination, and didn't make a lot of money, but made me happier than doing that TV show would have made me. Well, that's good. It worked out.
Oh, yeah.
Who do you think is the best Democratic candidate to beat Donald Trump?
I don't know who's the best one to beat him, because Michelle Obama's not running. But I think the worst Democratic candidate on their worst day will be better for Donald Trump supporters than Donald Trump is. And so I'm not picking a favorite. I have people I like. I'm a Warren G. And I love Bernie. But honestly, I would be happy with my 25th choice.
Do you have a best show and or a worst show you've done? Like comedy, stand-up, anything? Like a best show? Yeah, does anything stand out? That was amazing, I love doing that, or anything that was...
Yeah, I've been lucky on this political tour I do to have some amazing people join us on stage. We've had let me start that again. I sometimes do this tour, the Sexy Liberal Tour. I play the role of tour. Other people play sexy and liberal. But that tour, we've had Lily Tomlin come on stage with us twice. We've had Rob Reiner's done like 5 shows with us. Ted Lieu has come on stage a couple times. Adam Schiff, Malcolm Nance, Margaret Cho, Daryl Hammond. A lot of really wonderful people. It's Aisha Tyler did that tour with us for a while, and it's a really great thing to take like political stand-up and bring it to gorgeous theaters. We played the Chicago Theater like 4 times, and the Beacon in New York, and the Contagious in LA. And it's really fun to be in a room full of like-minded people who are having a positive, deeply inappropriate, filthy night.
Yeah, I went to the DC one.
You did? Oh, the one last year? With
the September one.
With Malcolm Nance and Daryl Hammond?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. That was a fun show.
Nice. Do you have a worse one that stands out? I think?
Oh, yeah. God, I mean, I've you know, a worst show I've ever done. That's a good question. I once had to go on stage at something called the Blockbuster Rock Fest when I was a VJ outside of Dallas, and it was in the Guinness Book as the most, the largest ticketed event of all time. It was like 750,000 people at one concert on a racetrack in Texas, and it was so hot and disgusting, and Chris Rock's helicopter was late, so they asked me to go out and do 10 minutes of stand-up in the middle of the afternoon to 750,000 people. And it wasn't really the place to do jokes. I had to be like, "Hello, Blockbuster Rock Fest! Ah, you know, this is your Woodstock! Ah, we've gone from peace and love to be kind rewind! Ah, we've got the wallflowers, we've got No Doubt, and we have the most sanitary portisans in the history of rock!" And you kind of just, and the whole time, like, there's, you know, people passing out and being passed over the nurses in front of you. So it was good times.
Okay, so do you have any advice for comedians or any final words to say?
For new comedians, just write all the time and keep performing all the time. And who you are now is not who you will be in 2 years. So just get out there and make some mistakes. And Bob Dylan had to try to be Woody Guthrie, and Tom Petty had to try to be Roger McGuinn. So go out and try to be who you think you're supposed to be, so you can find out who you really are.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I like that.
Yeah, well, Kid Rock might run for the Senate. So if he does, I'll run against him after changing my name to Kid Paper.